So Kimber was telling me classes are getting ready to start back up.
Right. So again, feeling very lucky and blessed that Google is you know, reinstating the classes. We've actually been doing it now for many years, which is nice. I'm actually going to be hopefully starting some public classes, if that's the right word for it, soon enough again. I haven't done those for some years. Just been overwhelmed with so many different things, live projects, very special events that we'll do on the weekends, like we'll do birthday parties. So if you're local to the San Jose, San Francisco Bay Area, you know, we do a lot of birthday parties. We also do corporate events. So it's pretty much the whole gamut, you know. We'll do anything from real basic stuff, you know, to something really involved, you know, where people are like, we want to see a full-length, long performance. I'm like, well, we can set that up. It just takes logistics and time and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, it should be exciting to be at the Google classes again.
But you don't have to be a Googler to enjoy the instruction that you provide, because you have some DVDs as well.
That's true, and actually we have a few, I guess, back here. And so we call these the NCSCS DVDs, which is the Novastar and Kane SaberCombat system. I put these together with a associate of mine some years ago, and we essentially filmed, you know, fight work and drills and footwork and forms, fight scenes, and also there's a lot of work very specific to the work that I do regarding notation, because that's some of the hardest things that, I guess I'll hold up one of these other ones. This would be our 2 DVD set on this one. So there's actually two DVDs separately, and you can get them also all together in one set. The notation is some of the hardest parts that I feel is lacking in people's work when they try to do a staged combat scene. It's one thing when you get together with a friend and you say, we're going to make a fight scene, you practice a few moves, but then a week goes by and you forgot everything. So you can play all these pickup games. You go, okay, well, where was it again? Or, oh, we'll just skip it. Or what you can do is have a good notational system where you can write down the moves that you did, and not only be able to write them down, put them on the paper, and that way you don't always have to remember everything by rote when you're learning and rehearsing. But you also have this system where you can go, oh, cool, I see. So this fancy move is nothing but the combination of 3 or 4 basic moves. And it's pretty hard to explain without me getting up and having the room to show all this kind of stuff. But you learn more by checking out the DVDs. I wanted the DVDs to be very robust and useful, not the whole like, look at how cool I am and see how I can do this cool sword moves and just spinning the saber around. That's great and all, but when it comes down to it, it's all about trying to get together with another person and say, we got to work this out. Like, okay, wait, you're going to go here, I'm going to do this, and how do we remember all this? And I wanted to figure out a simple way, but also a robust way for people to be able to remember all their moves and not also have to memorize all and have, you know, 10 years experience in kendo and all this stuff with all these archaic terms and or very difficult terms that are all sort of conflicting and hard to understand where everything goes. I wanted it where it seemed like anyone could pick it up. The kind of way I explain everything is really in English and not these old school terms. Like, for example, in fencing we'll have moves called like a glissade or a moulinet and all these kind of moves, and they are just fancy words for saying something pretty simple, a disengagement. You know, people are like, ooh, fencing, you know, but it's like a lot of these things can just be broken down into simple English kind of terms. I mean, another example, I don't know anything really about German longsword, but for example, people will say, oh, I use Unterhau and Oberhau and Oberhau. Like, all those Hau means cut. That's all that Hau means, basically a sword cut in this case. Uber, I believe, is, I'm not exactly sure, one of them's over, Ober might be it, Oberhau is over, Unterhau is an undercut. So all they're talking about in those particular terms are undercuts, overcuts, or in some cases whatever it means to say, a side or an angular cut. So I kind of wanted to do that with the system, is break it down into something simplistic where people can really understand it. You don't have to have a lot of fancy, you don't have to be Jackie Chan.
I'm definitely not Jackie Chan.
Yeah, or Michelle Yao, right? Or, right, how does she say it? Zhong Zi in Crouching Tiger. But that's the thing, it's not required. You can take it as far as you like, or you can just do the very simple things. And mostly, I just want to get people more involved who enjoy Star Wars, who enjoy the idea of using technology and martial arts and swords and combine them all and say, yeah, this would be really cool. I want to film a fight scene with me in costume, my husband or wife, or my friend or my sister, or whatever, and we're going to film this kind of fun sequence. How can we do it and also look good and make it look legitimate and not simply be like, okay, slap the swords together in many random places you can. It tends to not look very good doing that, as you can imagine. It'd sort of be akin to if you just shot a film and said, just pick up a camera and go. You know, it's not going to look that great. You want to say, well, if we even just have some basic rudimentary things down, then suddenly the whole world opens up to you. And I'm sure maybe you could talk a little bit about what you learned through me.
Yeah, I think the system is, it's not a simple system as far as like, oh, you only have to know 2 things in your set, like, but
right.
there's a set of things you have to learn, and then you can combine them and change them and flip them in so many ways, and you can make patterns for yourself, and there are some established patterns already.
Right.
So I was so excited, and like after my first class, I came home and I had a dowel rod in the house, and I was like showing Will, like, look at all the stuff you
awesome.
can do.
So you learn something every day. I didn't know that.
Yeah,
that's cool.
yeah. My landlord came by and I showed her, like, I was totally into it.
Pound brings people together.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So I really enjoyed it, and it's been a little while since I've been in class.
Right.
I still remember some of the things, and I still play around. And actually, I noticed that your SaberCombat shirts have the pattern mapped out on them. So
points.
Yeah, yeah. So I was really impressed with that. So if you are interested and you need a little cheat sheet, the shirt has it all there.
And plus, that's the thing, the DVDs also have the system on there. It's not meant to be confusing. It's actually meant to eliminate confusion as much as possible. And what she said, I believe, is right. And I'm glad that was her reaction, that it wasn't just, you know, her having to say it feeling like she's obligated, that she really does understand that, oh, I see, you learn these very rudimentary foundational things and then combine them, as she said. That's really what it is to me, martial arts is a language, but it's not a spoken language, it's a physical one. Just like, I mean, I used to talk to, I have a lot of different friends in different aspects of things, especially through theater. I used to talk to some dancers and I'd say, what would you say about this? And they said, you know, Matthew, at one point, because I was probably being too complicated about it, and they said, Matthew, ballet is meant to be seen. It's meant to be experienced, not written. And I went, oh, I got you. Kind of like music. You can't, you have to write music. You have to. Billy Joel is not going to just do his songs and just, well, whatever happened, I don't know. It's not going to work that way. But if someone were to say that music is what's on the paper, it's not right.
You look at it and you were like, what are these charts?
Exactly. And even if you know how to read the music, it's still not music. It's there as a tool to help you achieve the result that you want. And that's exactly what the notational system that I put together for this is there to achieve. It's not meant to be overly complicated, but again, like she said, it's also not like, well, all you need to do is learn 3 things and you're a Jedi Knight. You know, that would be ridiculous, and we all know that. Anybody who believes that Jackie Chan, for example, only had to learn 10 things, 20 things to be at the level he is it's just nonsense. We all know that life is much more complicated. But for example, you know, the English language is made up of 26 primary letters. Sure, we could talk numbers and pound signs and symbols, but you know, 26 letters. But when you think of how many words that you could assemble, and I actually don't even know what the answer is to that, but it's a lot of words you can make. And then if you're like, well, forget just the words alone, you've got sentences and paragraphs and these things. That's how you create really robust fight choreography, but you also do the same with music. So it's not like what I'm inventing here or bringing to the table is anything that's so wildly like, you know, it's not a blow your mind thing, but it's more like, oh right, most of these things are just simplistic maneuvers that when combined with other simplistic maneuvers, you get a really fancy, cool move. And everybody's like, oh my gosh, Jackie Chan. And you're like, actually, you could learn that move, but you couldn't learn it all at once. You know, just like when you're 1 year old, they don't say, all right, well, here's Grey's Anatomy, and get to work, girl. And you're like, they're like, here's letter A. Master that, please. And so, you know, we all look at it like, oh, this is nonsense. Of course, letter A, I know that. But you didn't at one point. You had to learn it. The same works of SaberCombat.
It's awesome.
before we go, I really wanted to ask you about the Power of the Fan Force.
All right, that's right. So the Power of the Fan Force is a series that I literally threw together in a week or so. I basically contacted some of my associates and friends, and I said, you know, I have this idea. I want to go to Christmas in the Park in downtown San Jose, because I live in the San Francisco Bay Area of California. And this is something that's been going on for many years, this Christmas in the Park. You know, they just have all these wonderful people out there and, you know, displays and everything. But I said, you know, since this is the timing, oops, that's okay. Since this is the timing with Star Wars 7, I'm like, we might as well go out there and just ask people questions, just to see. And it's funny, my associate's like, okay, well, is there anything specific you want? Like, are we gonna tell them to say certain things? I'm like, no, let's just do it like whatever happens, happens. And whatever footage we get, great. We'll get, you know, obviously releases for everybody. But, and then I was like, I'm going to suit up as Vader. And they're like, oh my God, are you crazy? I'm like, yeah, it's going to be hot. It's going to be crazy, but we'll just see what happens. And I have to say, it was one of the best experiences of my life so far in this little Star Wars world thing. And I didn't really think that it would be. I thought it would be fun, but I didn't know that I was going to have like just the best time. And it was just really cool. The irony is I got almost exactly what I imagined. In my mind, I was like, we're not going to be able to control anything of it, and I like that. I don't want it to be scripted. I don't want it to be, you know, these kinds of things. That's what I'm actually used to, too. I mean, by performing on stage and putting together stage combat productions, you don't just start swinging lightsabers at people. You have to kind of pick it, put it in a choreography and set it up. Like a movie script. It's a script, and the actors are saying lines that are already pre-written. So it was really neat to just go out there and see, like, what am I going to say as Vader? Am I going to have the right things to say? Am I going to still sound like Vader while also saying something? Right, while also being interesting and fun, and when someone would say something to also react well, but not just be like, you know, and crack up. It was like, that's not Vader. So, but overall what I was imagining is I knew that people would say things that were funny. I knew that people would say things that were interesting and kind of a surprise. But we also had some people say things that were also, I don't want to say dramatic, but it was more like, wow, these people, like, they had a pretty good story. I mean, just as a quick example on this it's called the Power of the Fan Force, and you can look it up on my YouTube channel. My YouTube channel goes under Greytail, or you can just look up SaberCombat, or you can visit it through my website.
We'll have a link right here.
Yeah. For example, one lady, she had mentioned, she said, well, when Star Wars first came out, when she was a young girl, and this is, you know, a lady was 50 years old, something.
Such a good story.
Yeah, she already knows the one I'm talking about. She's like, so we saw it 26 times, and we were like, oh my gosh. I wasn't actually the interviewer at that point. I had my man Bo Campbell, shout out to Bo, and the whole team, by the way. He was Obi-Wan for this and interviewing sort of in one area, and then I was just kind of over here as Vader, and so we were getting that kind of cool dichotomy, and then I was going to later bring it together in the editing process, which I did. So it's a 6-part series, and you'll see it's just a collection of very, you know, little short videos, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 4 minutes, 7 minutes, something like that, each one. And it was just the coolest thing, you know. We just had so many cool, we met a guy who was a Marine, you know, and explained that, you know, if he had the chance to use the Force, he would use it to help people, and he's all, that's kind of what I already do. I'm a first responder, and I was like, this is some great stuff, just like things you'd never expect, but also you got this, this really, well, the Power of the Fan Force, a powerful side to it, where you could see that Star Wars wasn't just a joke to everybody, or it wasn't like, yeah, it's a movie, space creatures, pow pow, lightsabers, okay. It wasn't this just like that. To some people it really was impactful in their life in a more meaningful way than just like, yeah, I was entertained by it. You know, some people said that. They said, you know, Star Wars is entertaining, Star Wars is nice. We met some people who had never seen Star Wars before, which I actually expected. My friends were kind of like, I can't believe it. And I'm like, really? I've run into lots of people who said that, and I don't think that's weird or wrong. I haven't seen any Harry Potter movies, and some people are like, what?
What?
And it's not, and some people are like, oh, you don't like them? I'm like, no, I haven't seen them, so I have no way to, you know, it's not a, I'm staying away from them, you know. Or, you know, for example, not to totally go off on a tangent, but I've always, and this isn't just to say it, I've always loved both Star Trek and Star Wars. As a little kid, some of my favorite things to watch was the original series with William Shatner and Leonard Nimoy and DeForest Kelley. I love DeForest Kelley the most, by the way. I thought he was fantastic. He really was the glue in the Star Trek series. But you know, for varying reasons. But most of all, I think it's because they told these really awesome stories, and they got you to think. Got you to think about something that was also relatable to real lives. I even think that's what Gene Roddenberry was going for, and I actually believe that's also what George Lucas was going for, on a little bit more overarching kind of style, since they were more about films and less about serial dramas that happened, you know, comes as a unit, you know, 1 hour series, and then this is another situation, you know. Star Wars is that overarching, this loss of innocence, go from a very normal person, Anakin Skywalker, turning into the worst, you know, possible incarnation of doom and gloom, and people had to deal with that. You have to think about that and go like, yeah, in what way is your life like, Darth Vader? What days did you feel? What periods in your entire life? Maybe some people had bad years and they're like, I was a really miserable person for that year. I don't know. So it was really cool in this Power of the Fan Force series to see all the different answers and how it came about. But I think most of it, though, I have to say, it was just funny too. Like people had the funniest things to say.
My favorite part was when you met Batman.
Oh, that's great. You know, just as a shout out to Jeff Linzaga, that was one of my cameramans, because I had two cameramen, Jeff Linzaga and my other associate Chris Horry, who also does a lot of my SaberCombat events with me, and has been training with me as a student and learning a lot, and he's doing really well. He's also now my Obi-Wan for the Vader versus Obi-Wan fight scene. He's sort of had to take up the mantle from Christopher Villa, who can no longer do it. Christopher Villa is 63 now, and he has enough body ailments and just situations of making it impossible for him to continue. But you know, it is what it is. We move forward and keep carrying the torch. But anyway, so the little boy who had the Batman costume on, that was Jeff's son, and it was just really awesome to have him answer some questions. I thought that was great. I wasn't even there too. They were filming, and Bo was able to get the interview. But you guys got to go check it out. The Power of the Fan Force. It's a lot of fun. Share it with your friends, especially if they love Star Wars. It was just a lot of fun. I hope we're going to do a follow-up too. Like now I want to go back, obviously not to Christmas in the Park, that's over, but go back out somewhere and start to ask people, okay, what are your thoughts on Star Wars 7? Because when we filmed this one, it was before the movie launched. And that's important for people to know, so there's no spoilers in it, if you haven't seen it yet. But now that Star Wars 7 has been launched, we can go out there and actually say, so what do you think? Did J.J. Abrams do justice to it, or do they want to say, oh, it was terrible and my whole childhood ruined? I don't know what they're going to say, but we'll be able to see many different people's opinions, I think. I hope we're able to do that.
Let's watch a small clip.
Cool.
I guess that'll wrap up Christmas in the Park, interviewing passersby about the Force and what it means to them. Did you have some interesting experiences, good interviews there, Darth?
I did, Brother Obi-Wan. And remember, the power to ask a question is insignificant when compared to the power of the Force.
So what was your favorite answer of the day?
I have to tell you, Obi-Wan, there were many moments. People spoke to me about the dark side, the light side, the Jedi, and even myself, Lord Vader. But all of their thoughts combined led up to the excitement of Star Wars Episode 7 coming out very soon. Everyone is excited, and they are all waiting to see what Force will be unleashed. What about you?
Well, I spoke with the young lady who said she would, if had the power of the Force, she would use it to cure cancer. And that got me to thinking, is that even possible?
I think anything is possible when you are considering the powers of the Force and people's minds. Just like my mind trick, you will give me 2 million credits. You will give me 2 million credits.
I I will give you all the credits I have. It's much less than 2 million, unfortunately. This is not the microphone you are looking for.
This is not the microphone I'm looking for.
Wait, did that work? He still said it into the microphone. Let's see.
I can go about my business.
I can go about my business.
Who's tricking who?
I am no longer sure.
You can go about your business.
I can go about your business.
Move along. Move along. And this is a force to be reckoned with.
Darth Vader, the DNA results have revealed regarding the babies of Luke and Leia. You are not the father.
I knew I was not the father. I knew I was not the father.
A little baby one.
That's awesome.
It's so little.
It works.
Can I talk in it? How close does it need to be?
And action.
Please, young lady, tell me your name.
I'm Charmy. Hi.
Charmy, tell me something about your favorite memory about Star Wars.
About Star Wars. Watching it for the first time with my dad and my little sister. He showed us all three of them, watched all of them with us. Because we'd never seen them. I think I was in 3rd or 4th grade. I guess it's kind of late to the game, like most kids see it like really young and know what Star Wars is, but yeah, that was really special for me.
So what is your favorite memory with seeing the films with your father and your sister?
I don't know. I know it's really dumb, but I liked Leia as a kid, and I thought she was really cute. And I thought even like the way she screams and like, oh, she's super cute. I know it's weird, but she's adorable.
I believe my daughter is pretty adorable as well.
She's pretty damn cute.
I agree.
How do you feel about that bathing suit, though?
Well, she and I had to talk about that. However, it appears she is not listening to me anymore.
You kind of had that bad thing happen. You kind of, you're like planning.
Correct.
Yeah, she might be a little like, a little weird, like at Christmas dinner. You know, a little awkward. You guys can get past it. You guys can get past it.
Perhaps we will. I have another question for you, Charlie.
Yes.
What would you say is your favorite film scene in Star Wars?
Anything with the Ewoks?
Why is that?
They're so cute. I want to hug them. I want to be part of them. Yep. I could just be one of them and we could cuddle.
That is probably true.
I probably watched Star Wars for the wrong reasons. People are like, oh, the lightsaber battles, or oh, the... Nah, the Ewoks. They're cute, they cuddly.
I have to admit, those Ewoks were utterly adorable. I mean, what am I saying? I am a Dark Lord.
Yeah, that's stupid. That's
right.
That's dumb.
Yeah.
Ew, gross.
Tough guys. Yes.
Meat and I don't know what's other meat. Hair, chest hair. Mmm.
Charmy, is there anything else you would like to add about your memories of Star Wars? Something pivotal in your life that Star Wars changed in you?
No. Now I'm nervous. No. There's too much pressure. There's people here. No.
That is what
They
my
were
son told me.
I can feel you judging me.
The power of the dark side, Charmy.
I don't know it. I don't. Should I?
Well, you did great.
I did great. I do good.
Thank you for
Can I get a force?
time.
Like a force?
We should do a
Wait.
force fight.
Don't touch it. It's like a. Yeah, like we already got it because the force. Yeah.
How about Death Star fist bump?
What's a Death Star fist pump?
I believe that is a wrap. Peace out and have fun with your LED sabers. May the force be with you all.
And to all a good night.
That was so cool.
It's funny, right? I mean, like, this is the craziest kind of things, and for us to be able to sum up everything was a lot of fun. And also big shout out to Charmy Sweets, aka Sarah, and she was hilarious. I've known her now for a few years now, and she's really great. She's a big part of the cosplay community, at least in this area. Yay! And she just does really awesome work. Very talented. She's also a really excellent singer. If you ever get a chance to check out her channel, I actually don't know the name of her channel. Maybe we'll find it and put it up here. But you know, you should at least listen to her do some covers of, I want to say, like Frozen. Great. And I'm not really good with all the Disney cartoon songs, but she's got an amazing voice. So she's pretty multi-talented, you know. But it's really cool because we actually, I mean, I'm kind of transitioning here, but during the same time that we were out at Christmas in the park, there was also simultaneously a cosplay event going on. So I was like, that's great, because we're going to run into people who are wearing costumes and doing things, and we can interview this person, that, and the other. So it was really cool. It was a joy to see Sarah there, and some other folks walked around. And I don't know how many we got interviews with in costume, but they were all out there.
It's really cool.
Really cool.
Yeah.
So, the big question you have been asking everyone in your video series is, what's your favorite Star Wars moment?
Oh, right, of course, right. I put everybody else on the spot, and that way I don't have to be. I don't really know. It's such a big question, at least for me. I really have trouble with it, because there's so many interesting moments, and it really depends on things. But I guess instead of maybe focusing for me on a moment, since that could just literally be, you know, one line, one this, I think I would have to say it was Luke's training in Episode 5. And I always like to kind of like learn little tidbits about stuff, but I actually saw a lot of really cool behind the scenes interviews with George Lucas. Not ones that are super common, you know, like they're on the internet, you see that they only have like 10,000 views, you know. They're just real kind of hole-in-the-wall things. It's got a lot of interesting sidebars about that sequence and how important it was to George Lucas in making sure that the philosophy, the sort of spiritual underpinnings is what he actually used, I think, that word, the underpinnings of it were, and I think they did it super well, because let's be honest, the moment with a puppet of Yoda, you sick Yoda, it could have been terrible. People could have been like, oh my god, it's Kermit the Frog and he's going to train Luke Skywalker. Wow, they're making us swallow a big pill with this one. Like, it's one thing to suspend your disbelief about movies in general. You know, when they go, beam me up, Scotty, we don't go, oh, this is, we go, yeah, that's cool, we buy into that, and it only goes so far in our minds, we don't have to think about it too much. But this whole, the training, the what does it mean to be a Jedi, it was established with Alec Guinness's character, and he did fantastic with that. But then when you come into with the Yoda thing, where he's like, you know, that rock, the trees, the Force is in everything, and all this kind of again, mystical magicalness. I think that combined with the fact that they had a puppet being controlled by, I guess it was Frank Oz, right? Is that right?
So.
Yeah. And it worked. Like, it didn't turn off like we were going, oh my god, a puppet's trying to tell me about Jesus Christ or whatever. It didn't come off that way, or at least that's how I feel. I could be wrong. Maybe there's people out there that think the whole scene was ridiculous and it worked. But I have a feeling that most people who saw Star Wars and saw Episode 5 went, that was amazing. Like, the whole sequence, Yoda lifting the X-Wing and all this kind of stuff. And again, that was just a film technique. You know, they're only doing shots, but I mean, the whole overarching moment of Luke going through this training sequence, and especially that moment where he's just like, you could see the doubt, you know, and they filmed it just right. You know, he started to do it. I guess, you know what? It helped me. My favorite moment is when Yoda, you see his eyes perk up, where he sees for one moment Luke might actually lift it. I think maybe, and that helped me because I didn't really think, what's the favorite moment? I think Yoda never imagined that Luke could really do it. You know, he's supposed to fail. It's too much for him. The lesson is, it's only big in your mind, and we need to get that out of your mind, you know. But you see him for a moment go, oh my gosh, Luke's going to do this thing, and then you see the other shot where you see it go back to Luke, and he's calm, and then you see him kind of do that whole, this is too big, what am I doing? And back into the swamp it goes, and you see even Yoda just kind of, you know, I'm trying to think, shrink down and be like,
It really gives you the perfect sense of how strong Luke is, though.
It's true. And beyond that, too, is just, to me also, that again, those underpinnings is that the message is clear. We do this in our lives all the time. If I say, blah, 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 this, that, and the other, and they're like, oh, I've always wanted to learn a backflip. I'm like, cool, maybe you should learn it. Oh, I've always wanted to learn, but I could never do it. I'm like, well, those who believe that they can or cannot do something are usually right, is how the old saying goes. And it's total truth, I believe, in everything in our lives, is if you don't believe you can do something, well, you probably won't, because you're so focused on not believing that you can do it, you're not going to do anything towards that goal. But if you're kind of like, yeah, I want to build my own life-sized X-Wing. People be like, oh, you're crazy. Well, it's one thing if you say that and you don't do anything, but it's another thing if you say that and you're like, oh, this is impossible. What the hell? Forget this. It's another thing if you're just like, no, I got some ideas. I got this thing. I'm going to do this. I got the money. I got the time. I got the resources. And suddenly you go and get this thing done and everybody will look and go, I can't believe it. And then it comes back to that wonderful line, that is why you fail. So I think that's my favorite moment, is seeing Yoda's eyes literally going, I think Luke could do this. But the only thing stopping him was the doubt, the fear, the it's too big, I can't do this, and it's whatever. And just again, that whole sequence. So I talked enough about it, but I think that's it. It's pretty much the middle moment in the original series, if you get right down to it. Well, it's almost dead center, I think, in the entire original trilogy, maybe. Could be
pretty
wrong.
close, at least.
Yeah, yeah. So how about you, Kimber?
My favorite. Wow. Again, I have so many favorite moments. Also, I think I'm a huge fan of Ewoks. So when Leia is escaping the stormtroopers who are following her, and then the Ewok shows up, Little Wicket, and they have this like, they can't communicate with words, but they still get the point across to each other. That's really cool to me.
Linguist.
Yeah, linguist.
That's cool.
Yeah.
You like the cracker too and everything?
Yeah.
I thought that was pretty cute. And he just hops up there and he's like, you know, and you're like, that's hilarious. You know, you're like, that's pretty cute. Yeah.
And you? What's yours?
For me, it's the battle in Empire. Just the final battle, how it's kind of back and forth, and it's kind of the climax of the entire thing for me.
So you mean the lightsaber battle?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah. That was definitely a pivotal moment. You know, a lot of people talked about, and maybe you want to talk more about it too, is the window had a very kind of film-oriented thing. It was supposed to be like a spider web, and that when Luke crashes through it, he's kind of being caught in the web of Vader, and all that kind of dark cave-like feeling that it was. Even though it wasn't a cave, we were on this Bespin cloud city inside some kind of, I don't know, power plant or whatever that was. I don't know if it's ever been made clear what that is. But right, it's so dark and sort of the steam and the smoke
it's very menacing.
You're right, and it's almost like there's this spider and he's drawing his prey into the web, so to speak. You know, but I mean, like, what else did you feel about that made it so much more important? Because I mean, you know, some people might say, "Well, it was just a lightsaber battle." What made it more to you?
For me, it's like at that moment, you really don't know who's going to win that battle.
Right?
Is Luke going to go to the dark side? The whole series could take an entirely different spin from that moment.
It's pretty pivotal, yeah, entirely, yeah. Especially the fight. Like, it's funny. I've argued this over the years with people, or I wouldn't say argue. That makes it sound negative, but more like discuss about the idea of, you know, some people would say, well, you know, Luke held his own against Vader. I'm like, I don't know if that's really the way the fight was. Like, I don't think Vader ever intended at all to harm Luke, for one thing.
No, he wanted to capture him.
Right, and he wasn't fighting like, I will murder you down and beat you right now like I could. I think the whole point was for him to kind of wear him down, get him to accept a few things more at a spiritual level that he really couldn't. And just especially all the lines, I think they were crafted really well. You know, they're sitting there fighting, bam, they're locked, and he's like, Obi-Wan has taught you well. You have control of your fear now. Release your anger. Only your hatred can destroy me. You're like, wow, this is the kind of line that you don't say when you're fighting your mortal enemy. And so I think that's something that also had to resonate with Luke's character. Like, he's like seriously, if I was in that, I'd be like, why the hell is he telling me this? What the hell's going on here? He's supposed to want to murder me to death and beat on me and be like, I win, I'm the Dark Lord. But instead, he's like explaining how I've been taught well. He's talking about Obi-Wan like he knows him pretty well, you know, and things. And Luke had only gotten a few little tidbits of that, you know, when he said, you know, a pupil of mine, Darth Vader, betrayed and murdered your father, and all these kinds of interesting...
It's like, I am your father.
Right, right. There was also, I'm sure we've all heard this too, is that they kept it from everybody. I think even Mark Hamill wasn't told it until, I believe, just the day of shooting, and the only reason is they needed to allow him to prepare as an actor how I will receive this moment. But it's funny, I saw a recent interview with Mark Hamill where, you know, he's, once it actually happened, and, you know, because he was sworn to secrecy, even with everybody else. Harrison Ford, you know, was like, you didn't tell me that, you know. It's like, I know, I would get in trouble and all that stuff, and it's just funny how Mark Hamill was like, yeah, I'd swear it to secrecy, but of course Harrison Ford was like, you know, you could have told me this, kid.
Your Harrison Ford impression is spot on.
I don't know about that. All you got to do is grumble a little bit, right? You know. So yeah, it's pretty funny. But yeah, actually, that was always a good thing. Harrison Ford had some great stuff because his charisma was just so strong. I think, and his lines were. You know, pretty awesome in his delivery, you know, some of the best things. No time to discuss this as a committee! And she's like, I am not a committee! They're yelling and screaming and having this wonderful banter. That was, I think, the other thing, too, the chemistry with the cast. Like, having Carrie Fisher there is such an underrated thing. I think a big shout-out to Carrie Fisher for being able to be on a set with pretty much all males, 100%. You know, even the crew was probably all males.
She carried her own.
Yeah, carried it. but it's true, and it's also like she became a strong character that fit into things instead of it being like she was sort of like, you know, guised and sort of overwhelmed by all of it. I mean, she was a you couldn't tell, and it wasn't unnatural. Like, okay, she's trying too hard. It never felt like that.
Will and Kimber here from Crossfire Co-op.
We thank you for checking out this awesome video with Novastar. Thanks for watching, and make sure to check out the rest of his work at SaberCombat.com.
Links in the description. Check it out below.
Bye!
May the Force be with you.
Of the dark side. Join me, and together we